In 5.6, we're going to divide polynomials. In our first examples, it's important to write these as a fraction. So let's say if the divisor is one term, then split into separate fractions and reduce each. Now we have to learn a lot of terms in our math classes. And so when I'm looking at this problem, and remember, you know, a fraction line is just, whoops, nothing more than, that's division. And so, and the divisor, this is the divisor, that's what goes into it. So if we were writing this box form, then your divisor would be out here. That's the divisor's location. It would also be the one that would be behind the division symbol. But what we're going to do with these is we're going to separate them. So let's take it, and we're going to write it again in separate fractions, and then we'll reduce each one separately. And so we're going to look here at our coefficients, and then we'll come and look here at our variables with their exponents, and we'll use our exponent rule. So you got two things going on, so you have to be really careful. 18 divided by 3 is 6. X to the 7 over x to the 4 is the quotient rule. So 7 minus 4 is 3. Then we do 9 divided by 3, x to the 5th. So 5 minus 4 is x to the 1. And this gives us our answer. So remember, we're going to write those and reduce each fraction as you go. That's going to be key. And then we don't want any negative exponents. So we want all positive exponents. Well, I'm already separating it out for you. Let me write it the way it's supposed to be. Then we'll separate it out. We're going to remember to do our variables with our exponent rule. Do our coefficients, keeping in mind our negatives and positives also. So 21 and 6 can both be divided by 3. And so we'll have, at the top, we'll have a 7 and then a 2 at the bottom. You can leave the negative at the top, or you can pull it to the front. The x's, now the largest x is down here. So my answer is going to end up being in the bottom. 3 minus 2. So that's a modified quotient. And with that modified quotient, we want to locate the largest exponent, and then that's where our answer will be. So it's in the denominator, x goes here, 3 minus 2. Plus 30 divided by 6 is going to give us 5. And these are exactly the same, or they equal 0 when we do the quotient rule, and anything to the 0 power equals 1, so 5 times 1. And so this is going to give us our answer for that one. Okay. Then let's look at when our divisor has two terms. And this is going to be important for us to really pay attention to because it's going to go along with chapter 6. So now this time we're going to write this, put the x plus 9 out here, write everything in here. Like we would do with long division. Okay, so. And with long division, you've got several steps. We're going to divide, then we'll multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat if we need to. So watch carefully how I do this. I'll do a couple of examples and be sure that we're moving through all of these steps. So we focus on the first terms, always. And we have to ask ourselves, 7x squared divided by x. Or, what can you multiply times x to give you 7x squared? Well, it would be 7x. And so we want to line this up. Now we've got two terms, so we're going into two terms. So we can't put our 7x here. We're going to put it here. And then after we're done, you'll see that all the x's are going to line up right here. Now we multiply. 7x times x is 7x squared. 7x times 9 is 63x. Our next step is to subtract, so we're going to come in here and we're going to subtract here and here. The first terms must cancel. If they don't, you've made a mistake. 67 minus 63 is going to give me 4x. My next step is to bring down. Okay, so we want to bring down that plus 36. Then again, we're going to focus on the first terms, here and here, and ask ourselves, what do we multiply times x to get 4x? And it's a plus 4. So now we're ready to multiply again. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times a positive 9 is a positive 36. When I got to do that subtraction, we're going to subtract here and here, and get a 0 here and a 0 here, and so we're done. 7x plus 4 is our quotient. That's the answer to our division problem. First thing you got to do is rewrite it like it's a long division problem. It also won't hurt you to come over here and write those steps down. Or, I recommend putting them on a card. If you've got intermediate kids at home, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, if they're struggling with division, make them a card that has these steps inside. so they'll know what to do. And it just helps us remember, because we have to do each step each time. So again, let's focus on those first terms. And again, because we're going into two terms, there's two here, we've got to go into two. Our first number is going to end up going right there. Okay, I think I'm going to scroll back because I forgot to point this out. Well, you know what, let's just point it out at the end of this one. We'll see how everything lines up. Alright, so what would I multiply times 3a to get 9a cubed? Well, it's a positive 3a squared. 3 times 3 is 9, and a squared times a is a cubed. 3 times 2 is 6, and everything's positive. A squared times 2 is, a squared. So 3a squared times 2 is 6a squared. Now we're ready to do the subtraction. This is going to cancel. Minus 3 and minus 6 will give me a minus 9a squared. And I see a mistake I made. This should be a square. Okay. Now it looks better. Okay, and then we want to do the bring down thing. So we've got to bring this down. Then we're back to how many times does 3a go into a minus 9a squared? Well, it'd be minus 3a. Minus 3 and 3 are negative 9. A times a is a squared. Minus 3a times 2 is a negative 6a. Then we want to do the subtraction. But pay attention to this. Here I'm going to subtract, but I already have a minus sign. So actually what I'm going to end up doing is adding. Same thing here. I'll need to subtract, but I already have a minus. So I'm going to end up adding. These two cancel. Negative 3 and positive 6 will give me a positive 3a. Then we are ready to bring down. What do I multiply times 3a to get 3a? A plus 1. 1 times 3a and 1 times 2. Come through, subtract, subtract. That cancels. Here I've got 13 minus 2 is 11. There's nothing else to bring down. That's my next step. After the subtraction is bring down. There's nothing to bring down. So what that means is this is my remainder. And it is positive, and this is important. Because to write this, we come over here and put plus 11 over our divisor of 3a plus 2. That's how we can write a remainder as a fraction. So then our answer here is 3a squared minus 3a plus 1 plus 11 over 3a plus 2. Okay, let's look at another problem. Before we leave this one, let's go back up here. I want you to notice a few things. Here, everything going down this row is in squares. Here it's A's, 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 A's. Here it's just constant numbers in this column. So that's what I was talking about. When you line everything up in the right place, then all these columns will be the same. The other thing I want you to notice here is this, is if this number is a 2, and it's the dividend, what we're going into, then my quotient here begins with a square. Okay, so I just want you to keep this in mind because of what we're going to do in our next section. If this starts with a cubed, then your answer is going to start with a squared. If this had been a 5, this would be a 4. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's go ahead and look at another problem. This time we have some missing numbers, or actually missing variables. So if a problem starts with x to the 5th, you've got to have x to the 4th, x cubed, x squared, x, and then a number. Okay, so what we've got here is I have an x cubed. I've got that constant number, but I don't have an x squared and an x. So when I go to do my division, I'm going to put them in there. So I've got x cubed, and then I've got plus 0x squared plus 0x, then minus the 125. So let's see, if I start here with this x cubed, I've got to have all of this. So I've got x cubed, x squared, x, and then that constant number. Then we'll go ahead and look at doing the division the same way we were a while ago. X goes into x squared. Remember what I just said. If this is squared, then this will be, if this is cubed, this will be squared. Multiply, product rule. 2 plus 1 is 3. X squared times negative 5 is a negative 5x squared. When we go to do the subtraction, this cancels, but this becomes a plus. So now I have 5x squared. I need to bring down my 0x. Repeat the process. What do I multiply times x to get 5x squared? It's going to be a positive 5x. Notice the squares are lining up, the x's are lining up. Multiply. 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times a negative 5 is negative 25x. Then we want to subtract. Here I've got 2 negatives, so again this is going to become a positive. This cancels. This is 25x. Bring down the negative 125. Repeat. What do I multiply times x to get 25x? It's plus 25. Multiply 25 times x and 25 times negative 5. Come through, do your subtraction. This cancels. This becomes a positive, and I'm left with a remainder of 0. Okay, so you need to really pay attention to things like the patterns that are being created here. And if this starts with a cube, this starts with a square. Don't want to have any missing variables. And so let's see here. Remember, if you have a remainder, you want to put it over, write it as a fraction, put it over the divisor. And that's going to be about it for this section. In the next section, we're going to look at these same problems and with a different method of division. Good luck.